So what I recommend is 5 p.m. Don't eat after 5 p.m. But if you feel, okay, that's a little too much for me, but I can go not eating after 6. Some people say, well, I don't get home till 6 or 7 and then I eat around 8 or 9. Well, start flipping things around. Maybe eat your first meal a little earlier and eat a late lunch at work and then don't eat when you get home. So there's many different things you could think of. The only 2 situations I could really think of where it won't be feasible to do this right now is, number 1, if you have a night job. Now, that's not an excuse to keep eating at night. You know, I could tell you it's not healthy to work the night shift, if you don't know that already. And some people at this moment might not have a choice, but that doesn't mean in your free time, in your days off, you can't start looking for a day job. You know, so we need to change things. That's not an excuse to keep living, doing what we're doing. You know, I know people that don't have money they don't have money for food, or they don't have money for drinks, and they work in a bar and they drink a lot of liquor. And they say, well, you know, I get it for free. Well, why don't you get a job working in a smoothie bar or a juice bar and you can drink juice at least? You can change your situation, you know, but you have to take action and make it happen. But for the most part, if you are working a night job, try to eat as close to the sunrise and sunset as possible and not eat right in the middle of the night when it's the highest time for your body to be resting. The other thing is, if you have a newborn baby, if you're a feeding mother, a breastfeeding mother, the daylight diet might not necessarily work because if the baby wants to eat, you know, and you're up late, you're going to be eating more. Not necessarily during pregnancy do you necessarily need to eat more, but when you're breastfeeding, you definitely might need to eat more than the average. So at those points, that might be okay for that temporary amount of time. But that's not an excuse to go eat at 3 o'clock in the morning either. That might mean you might be able to go to 8 or 9 o'clock at night, but I see no reason a normal pregnancy where the mother, and a normal birth where the mother couldn't go we're not out eating after 8 o'clock at night. You still don't have to eat after 8 o'clock at night. There's no excuse ever, well there are many excuses, but there's no reason ever somebody should eat after 8 o'clock at night. Now, there are those valid exceptions. If your daughter's getting married, you know, don't stand there on a table and say, I'm a daylight eater and I'm not going to eat. Enjoy the meal and have fun. But, you know, make that a once, you know, in a while occasion and not most of the while or most of the time occasion. These things are so essential for our health. And if you ask me now, after eating a raw food diet for all the years I've been eating it and doing what I'm doing, the raw food diet is great. But I'm telling you, if I had a choice, if somebody was before me now and they said, Paul, what is the first thing you could tell me about my health to start improving my health? Before I told them to start eating fruits and vegetables, I would tell them to stop eating at nighttime. To stop eating when it's dark outside. The second thing I would tell them is, stop eating processed foods. Even if you have to eat foods that have been cooked, at least that they're not processed, that they don't come in a bag, a container, or a bottle or something. And then finally I would say, eat more raw fruits and vegetables. And then from there, we can continue. But those 2 or 3 things are the most essential. And I see a lot of people eating a raw food diet, eating late at night. As a matter of fact, many of the potlucks are at nighttime. And this is why you go to a raw food restaurant at nighttime and they're all eating. This is why the raw food owners, they're like, you not talk about that? You know, so we have to understand, it's a problem. You know, and this is why a lot of raw fooders aren't as healthy, or most people aren't as healthy as they could be. And if you want to lose weight, there's no better way to lose weight than to stop eating when it's dark outside. Or at 5 o'clock, whatever comes first. As a matter of fact, you can eat as much as you want during the day, and don't eat after 5 o'clock, and you'll do more to lose weight than any other diet program you've ever heard of. Now, I don't recommend overeating in the daytime, but if you just have to get used to not eating at night, well, make that your stage 1. Remember, I'm giving you the guidelines, but you want to individualize this to make it best for you. Now, I want to look at some things that might take us off or keep us away from doing this, where we might have a challenge. The first thing is, we have to understand, a big complaint I get from people today is, if I don't eat, I have no energy. Does anyone in this room feel that way? Does anyone in this room have the energy to raise their hand?
I feel like that sometimes, but then when I eat, sometimes...
People think and believe that they need food for energy. Food does not give us energy. Food stimulates us. Food gives us stimulation. And the stimulating food's giving even us more stimulation. But foods are stimulating. The way we get true energy is by conserving it and getting a full night's sleep. It's like your cell phone. If you plug it in before you go to sleep and it's plugged in the whole night, when you wake up in the morning, guess what? It's going to be fully charged. But if you forget that, plug that cell phone in before you go to sleep, guess what? It's not going to be fully charged the next day. Your body works the same way. You get energy by getting the proper amount of rest. And you get the proper amount of rest by eating the proper amount of food, where you give your body the proper amount of time to get the proper amount of rest. Because if you're overeating and eating late at night, you're going to be too tired to get the proper amount of sleep that you need, because you got to get up and do work and do all the other things. And the average person, the average amount of foods they eat, need 10, 12, 13 hours of sleep. How many people in this room have enough time to sleep that many hours? So what do? Instead of eating less, we get alarm clocks and cut our sleep short. Sleeping is another word for healing. We need to create a place where we're creating a time where we can get all the sleep we require without it being a lot. And the way to do that is to eat the foods according to the daylight diet, not eating at nighttime, and not eating too many meals throughout the day, and that'll make that happen. The things that take us away from that is stimulations. Food is stimulating. I find the biggest illness today, or the biggest disease today, is exhaustion, or adrenal fatigue. Fatigue is the biggest cause, or the biggest illnesses we have today. Some people call it chronic fatigue, or whatever you want to call it. But if you took blood tests and you had people tested, you would see more people suffering from adrenal exhaustion or adrenal fatigue more than you could ever imagine. And how does that happen? By eating too much, by eating at the wrong times, by stressing your body out, and not getting enough sleep to recover. Too much stimulation from food, too much stimulation from TV, too much stimulation from coffee and the cacao, or whatever they call it, the raw chocolate, or whatever that garbage is. Too much stimulation is poison to the body. And this creates a problem. And this is what happened. Most people don't realize they have a problem because they feel great all the time. But it's not a true feeling, it's a stimulation, so it's a false feeling. And that is the problem. But taking away a stimulation, there's a big withdrawal. We see this if we take away coffee from someone, or if we take away cigarettes from someone. And I'm telling you, one of the hardest things I found is taking chocolate away from someone. They'll drive you right over you to get to their little cacao. But too much stimulation is not healthy. So we need to keep that in mind. Now, there's the TV that stimulates us emotionally, the foods that stimulates and everything else. But then there are things we think that we're doing that are healthy for us that still stimulate us. For example, exercise. Exercise. A big mistake today that people are making is they're exercising too much, stimulating themselves too much, and too much adrenaline is going to lead to what? Adrenal exhaustion. And it's a big problem we have today. Because all of this exhaustion makes us require more sleep, but not have the amount of hours to get it. And if we don't have the amount of hours to get it, we wake up and we're starting out from a bad point to begin with. And then we start getting emotional, and then we start eating later at night, making our body work even harder, causing us even to get less sleep than we require. Continuing, it's an everlasting process. So we need to keep these things in mind. Yes, I just told you to exercise less. But I didn't tell you not to exercise at all. We need to get exercise, but we need to get the right amount of exercise. I can tell you that what? If you're eating healthy and you're eating the right amount, you don't need much exercise. Now, if that's not a great reason to eat healthy, I don't know what is. But we need to make sure we get the proper amount of rest, the proper amount of exercise, the proper amount of food, and just enough but not too much, and so on. But before we get into the actual program of the second stage and the third stage, I want to give you some tips to relax that people have seemed to forget. Because when I tell people to relax today, people think relaxing is doing a headstand with no hands for 3 hours. That doesn't seem relaxing to me or to my neck.